All right, buckle up for a deep dive into something a little different today.
Interesting.
We're cracking open the desire system mesmerizing messages that leave men obsessed.
Ooh, spicy.
It's a pretty bold title, wouldn't you say?
Definitely grabs your attention.
The book basically claims that you could use specific phrases.
Like magic words.
Kinda, yeah. Specific phrases and emotion-stimulating words to make a man totally captivated by you.
Sounds a bit like a love potion.
Right. So we're going to see if there's anything to these intriguing ideas.
I'm all ears.
Let's start with the author himself.
Hmm.
He's actually a big part of why the book is so compelling.
Oh, how so?
He describes himself as a former shameless Casanova
A reformed Blair, huh?
until he met a woman named Sarah.
Okay, and what happened with Sarah?
Well, she used these techniques on him, and it completely changed his perspective on relationships.
I'm intrigued.
He said he actually wanted to run away from her on their first date.
Oh, wow, really?
But then, get this, one text message later,
One text message.
his feelings completely flipped,
He was hooked.
totally captivated.
That's powerful.
He claims it sparked genuine feelings of love in him,
Interesting.
which led to a major shift in his whole approach to dating.
So, a complete 180.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the book is packed with similar stories, too.
Oh, really?
Like case studies of women
Yeah.
who've used these mesmerizing messages
Mhm.
to get some pretty remarkable outcomes.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, take Jeanine, for instance.
Okay.
Her boyfriend disappeared after she brought up marriage.
Yikes.
But after sending him one of these special messages,
One message, that's all it took.
he came back and proposed.
Whoa. All right, what else?
Another one is Danella.
Okay, done this
He went from a casual fling to having her guy declare his love after just one text.
Wow, these are some bold claims.
And there's Maggie, whose ex had been avoiding for a year,
Oh, years.
and suddenly he wanted her back.
Okay, so these stories, whether they're entirely accurate or maybe a little embellished, they definitely tap into something that I think a lot of people desire.
What's up?
The ability to kind of influence the feelings of someone they're attracted to.
I think you're right.
Yeah, there's a certain allure to that, isn't there?
Definitely. But it seems like the book is not just about getting an ex back, though.
Okay, so what else is it about?
It's about creating this level of attraction and desire
Yeah.
that's almost, well, primal.
Primal, like tapping into basic instincts.
Exactly. The author even compares the effect of these messages to that of addictive substances.
Ooh, that's a strong comparison.
It's as if these words make the sender irresistible, leaving the recipient craving more.
So it's not just about saying, I like you or I miss you. It's something deeper.
Yeah, it's like these words are bypassing logic and going straight to the emotional core.
Interesting. So let's get to the good stuff.
Yes. The messages themselves.
Okay, break it down for me.
The book actually provides examples of these so-called mesmerizing messages.
Oh, so it's like a recipe book?
Exactly. And each one is designed to trigger a very specific response.
That's pretty specific.
You've got ones with names like the moving mousy phrase, which is supposed to create this deep longing in a man.
The moving mousy phrase? Okay.
Or, oh, my Cinderella, which aims to make him feel like you're his soulmate.
Oh, wow. Playing on that fairy tale fantasy.
And then there's the mouse and cheese phrase.
So I'm guessing that one's about triggering feelings of obsession.
You got it,
These names are really creative, I have to say.
aren't they? What's interesting is that the book stresses that anyone can learn these techniques.
So you don't have to be like a master manipulator or anything.
Nope. It says you don't need to be a supermodel or anything like that.
So anyone can use this?
The language is simple, and the results are, according to the book, at least immediate.
Immediate results, huh? It almost makes you wonder if it's that easy. What's the catch?
Right.
The book lays out a pretty persuasive argument, backed up by these, captivating stories.
Yeah. And even if we allow for a bit of creative storytelling with the case studies,
Sure.
they do suggest that there might be something to this idea of using language to influence attraction. It does make you think.
What are you thinking?
Could there really be something to this whole text hypnosis and emotion-stimulating words thing?
Well, we know that words have power, right?
Absolutely. They can persuade,
I may argue.
enrage.
Absolutely.
So this book is really taking that power and applying it to romantic attraction,
Makes sense.
whether it's as simple as choosing the right words or if there's some deeper psychological mechanism at play. It definitely offers a unique perspective on the whole, complexities of human connection.
I like that, yeah.
And it goes deeper than just giving you the phrases.
Oh, how so?
It dives into the potential science behind them,
Okay, get into that.
claiming that they actually activate specific neurotransmitters in the male brain.
Whoa, hold on. So it's like hacking into the male brain's reward system.
Right. Creating this sense of euphoria that's directly linked to, the sender of these messages.
Fascinating. Tell me more.
The book claims these messages trigger the release of dopamine,
Dopamine.
oxytocin,
Oxytocin.
and vasopressin, which are all neurochemicals that are related to feelings of attachment and pleasure.
Oh, I see. So it's like tapping into the brain's pleasure centers.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it compares that effect to the rush of dopamine someone experiences when they, take an addictive substance.
That's a bold statement.
So it's suggesting that these mesmerizing messages can essentially make you the source of his pleasure and reward.
Whoa, that's heavy.
I know, right? Now, I have to admit, at this point, I'm getting a little skeptical.
Yeah, I hear.
As fascinating as this concept is, I'm not totally convinced that a few words, no matter how well chosen, can have the same effect on the brain as, say, a hit of cocaine.
It's a big claim.
It is, and it's important to approach the book's claims with, a healthy dose of skepticism. While language can definitely influence emotions, even trigger physiological responses.
For sure.
The idea that it can directly manipulate specific neurotransmitters to that degree definitely requires some further investigation.
I agree with that. And, even if it does work, there are some ethical implications we need to consider.
Exactly. We're getting into tricky territory here.
Like, are we talking about genuine connection?
Or are we venturing into the realm of manipulation?
Right. Where's the line?
Exactly. Now, the book does address that.
Oh, good.
Stressing responsible use, of course.
Of course.
Saying that the goal is to enhance existing attraction.
Okay.
Not to create it out of thin air or deceive someone into feeling something they don't.
So it's more about amplifying a spark that's already there.
That's right. Not trying to manufacture feelings from scratch.
Interesting. So let's say, for argument's sake, we accept the premise that words can have this powerful impact on emotions.
Okay, I'm with you.
How do these mesmerizing messages actually work?
Yeah, what makes them so effective?
I'd love to know.
Well, the book breaks down the specific elements of these messages.
Okay, like what?
Highlighting techniques, like using sensory language.
Sensory language, interesting.
Evoking emotional memories.
Okay.
And using subtle suggestion.
Subtle suggestion, so it's like you're planting seeds in their subconscious.
Exactly. It argues that by choosing words that tap into his deepest desires.
His deepest desires, okay.
You can bypass a man's conscious defenses and speak directly to his emotional core.
It's almost like crafting a hypnotic spell with words.
That's a great way to put it. The book actually uses the term text hypnosis to describe the effect of these messages.
Text hypnosis, I like that.
It's a fascinating concept and one that I think a lot of people will find, intriguing.
Yeah, for sure.
For those who are maybe looking for ways to enhance their romantic relationships.
Right.
Or attract the attention of someone special.
It's like a secret code to unlock someone's heart. So tell me more about this text hypnosis. How does it actually work?
Well, the book argues that by using very specific words and phrases, you could essentially bypass a man's logical mind and tap into his emotional subconscious.
So you're speaking directly to his feelings and desires.
Right. The theory is that by using language that evokes certain emotions and memories,
interesting,
you can create a powerful connection that he won't even be consciously aware of.
It's like you're creating a subconscious association between you and those positive feelings.
Exactly. So, for example, the book talks about using sensory language to create a vivid experience in his mind.
Okay, like how?
Like describing a romantic setting, using words that appeal to his senses.
I see, like painting a picture with words.
Right. And by doing this, you're not just telling him something, you're making him feel it.
It's like you're creating an emotional experience for him.
Exactly. And the more vivid and engaging that experience is, the more likely he is to be drawn to you.
That makes sense. So it's about going beyond just the surface level of communication.
Right. It's about creating a deeper connection.
Tapping into something more primal.
Exactly. Now, another key element of text hypnosis is the use of emotional anchors.
Emotional anchors. Tell me more about that.
Okay, so an emotional anchor is basically anything that triggers a specific emotion or memory.
I'm listening.
So, for example, a certain song might remind you of a happy time in your past.
Right, like your wedding song.
Exactly. Or a certain scent might evoke a feeling of comfort and security.
Like the smell of freshly baked cookies.
Right. Now, the book suggests that you can use emotional anchors to your advantage by creating positive associations with yourself.
Okay, so how would you do that?
Well, let's say you're on a date with a guy and you're having a really great time.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You're laughing, you're feeling connected, and there's a real spark between you.
Got it.
At that moment, you could use a specific phrase or gesture.
Like what?
It doesn't have to be anything grand or over the top.
Okay.
It could be something as simple as a touch on his arm or a certain look in your eyes.
I see. You're creating a physical anchor.
Exactly. And by repeating this anchor at other times when you're together,
So like when you're texting him or talking on the phone.
you'll start to build a subconscious association in his mind.
Between you and those positive feelings.
Exactly. So even when you're not physically together, he'll still feel that connection.
It's like you're leaving a little piece of yourself with him.
Right. And the more you reinforce this anchor, the stronger that association becomes.
It's like training his brain to associate you with pleasure and happiness.
Exactly. And this is just one example of how text hypnosis can be used to create a powerful and lasting connection.
Now, this all sounds very intriguing,
It is, right?
but I have to ask, is there any scientific evidence to support these claims?
That's a great question, and one that we'll definitely explore further in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, because I'm curious to know if there's any actual research to back up these ideas.
Right. Like, is this really a thing, or is it just clever marketing?
Exactly, because while I'm fascinated by the concept, I also want to make sure we're not just buying into hype.
I'm with you on that. We need to separate fact from fiction.
Absolutely. But before we get too deep into the science, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier.
What's that?
The idea that these messages can trigger the release of specific neurochemicals in the male brain.
Right, like dopamine and oxytocin.
Exactly. Now, I know we talked about being skeptical,
Yeah.
but I have to admit there's a part of me that's kind of curious about this.
I get it. It's a fascinating idea.
It is. I mean, if it's true, that means that words can have a profound impact on our biology.
It's like we're talking about the power of language to literally change our brain chemistry.
Exactly. And that's a pretty mind-blowing concept.
It is. So how do we know if this is actually happening?
Well, that's where the science comes in. We need to look at the research on neurochemicals and how they're affected by language and communication.
Right. We need to see if there's any evidence to support these claims.
Exactly. And that's what we'll be exploring in the next part of our deep dive.
So stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back after the break.
I can't wait to get to the bottom of this.
Me neither. It's going to be a fascinating discussion.
For sure. This is the kind of stuff that keeps me up at night, wondering about the mysteries of the human mind and how we connect with each other.
I know exactly what you mean. The power of language is truly incredible.
It is. And if we can learn to harness that power in a positive way, imagine the possibilities.
Imagine the possibilities indeed.
So, diving into the science behind it all.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Is there any actual evidence to support these claims about, text hypnosis and emotion-stimulating words?
Right. Because it sounds pretty amazing.
It does. Like, can a few words really make someone fall head over heels?
It's a big question.
And to be honest, I'm a bit skeptical.
Me too.
But I'm also open to the possibility.
Right. Let's keep an open mind.
So where do we even begin to look for evidence?
Well, the book claims that these messages work by triggering specific neurotransmitters in the male brain.
Right, like dopamine, oxytocin, those kinds of things.
Exactly. So maybe we should start by looking at the research on those neurochemicals.
Good idea. Let's see what the science says.
Okay, so I did a little digging into the research on dopamine and oxytocin.
Oh, interesting. What did you find?
And it turns out they play a big role in romantic attraction and bonding.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Dopamine is associated with pleasure and reward, while oxytocin is often called the love hormone because it's released during things like hugging and kissing.
Oh, right. I've heard of that.
And these hormones definitely create those feel-good sensations that we associate with being in love.
So it seems like the book is on the right track, at least in terms of identifying the key players.
Yeah, but the question is, can words really trigger the release of these hormones in a predictable way?
That's a million-dollar question.
Exactly. And unfortunately, the research on that is still pretty limited.
So there's no definitive answer yet.
Not really. There's some evidence that suggests that certain types of communication, like expressing affection or gratitude,
Okay.
can increase levels of oxytocin.
Interesting.
But it's not clear whether simply using specific words or phrases can have the same effect.
So more research is needed.
Definitely. We need more studies to really understand how language influences our brain chemistry in the context of romantic relationships.
I agree. But even without concrete scientific proof, I think it's worth considering the possibility that words do have a powerful impact on our emotions.
Right, we can't deny that.
I mean, think about how certain words or phrases can make you feel happy, sad, angry, or even loved.
Yeah, words can evoke such strong emotions.
They can. And if words can have that kind of effect on us, it's not a stretch to think that they might also be able to influence our attraction to someone.
It's like even if we don't fully understand the science behind it, we can't deny the power of language in our lives.
Exactly. Words have the power to persuade, to comfort, to inspire, and maybe even to make someone fall in love.
Maybe so.
Hmm.
So even if we're not sure about the neurochemicals, we can at least acknowledge that language plays a role in shaping our feelings.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes this whole mesmerizing messages concept so intriguing.
Yeah, it makes you think about how you use language in your own relationships.
It does. Like, am I using words in a way that's creating connection and attraction?
Right. Or am I missing opportunities to really express my feelings and desires?
It's definitely food for thought.
It is. Okay, so let's say for the sake of argument that these mesmerizing messages do work.
Okay, I'm with you.
Even if we don't fully understand how, does that mean it's ethical to use them?
The big ethical question.
Exactly. Because even if it's possible to influence someone's feelings with words,
Right.
does that mean it's okay to do so?
It's tricky territory.
It is. And I don't think there's an easy answer.
I agree.
On the one hand, you could argue that any attempt to influence someone's feelings is a form of manipulation.
I see your point.
And that's especially true when it comes to something as delicate as romantic attraction.
Right, you don't want to play with someone's heart.
Exactly. But on the other hand, you could also argue that we're always influencing each other with our words and actions.
True, communication is all about influence to some extent.
Right. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
It's how we connect with each other, how we build relationships.
Exactly. So maybe the question isn't whether it's okay to influence someone's feelings.
But rather how we do it.
Right. Like, what are our intentions?
Exactly. Are we being honest and authentic?
Are we respecting the other person's boundaries?
And are we using our words to create a healthy and fulfilling relationship?
Those are all important considerations.
They are. And I think the book actually does a decent job of addressing these ethical concerns.
Okay.
It emphasizes the importance of using these messages responsibly and authentically.
Right. It's not about tricking someone into falling in love.
Exactly. It's about using language to express your genuine feelings and create a deeper connection.
And it also stresses the importance of respecting the other person's free will.
Yeah, you can't force someone to feel something they don't.
No amount of mesmerizing messages can change that.
Absolutely. And I think that's a crucial point.
It is. Because at the end of the day, healthy relationships are built on mutual respect and trust.
And that's something you can't fake with a few clever phrases.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, while these messages might be a fun and interesting way to spice things up,
Yeah,
they're not a substitute for genuine connection.
I agree. They're more like a tool to enhance what's already there.
A way to communicate your desires more effectively.
Exactly. And if they're used in a way that respects both people's feelings,
Right.
then I think they can be a positive addition to any relationship.
Now, I know we were going to get back to those specific examples of mesmerizing messages,
Yeah, I'm excited to hear more about those.
but I actually think we should save that for the next part of our deep dive,
Okay, I'm on board.
because I want to spend some time really unpacking the ethical implications of all this.
That's a great idea. It's a conversation that deserves our full attention.
It is, and I think it's important for our listeners to really consider these questions before they go out and start using these techniques.
Absolutely. We need to be mindful of the power of language and use it wisely.
So let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and delve into the specific phrases and how to use them ethically.
Sounds like a plan. I'm looking forward to it.
Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into some specific examples of these mesmerizing messages.
Definitely. I'm curious to see what they actually sound like.
All right, so the book provides a whole arsenal of phrases, each designed to trigger a specific response.
Like a secret code book for love.
Exactly. And we can't reveal all the secrets, but we can give you a taste.
Okay, tease me with a few.
All right, so one that really caught my eye is called the anchoring phrase.
Anchoring phrase. Okay, what's that about?
The idea is to create a positive association in his mind, linking those feelings of happiness and excitement to you.
So like whenever he feels good, he'll think of you.
Exactly. It's about becoming the source of his joy, making him unconsciously associate those positive feelings with being around you.
Clever. How do you actually use this phrase?
Well, the book suggests using it when you're sharing a fun experience together.
Okay, like on a date or something.
Right, or even just when you're feeling happy and radiant.
So it's about capturing that positive energy and linking it to yourself.
Exactly. And the more you reinforce this anchor, the stronger that association becomes.
Fascinating. Okay, what else is in this love code book?
All right, another intriguing one is called the curiosity phrase.
Ooh, piquing his interest.
You got it.
Yeah.
This one is designed to make him want to know more about you, to unravel the mystery that is you.
I like it. A little bit of mystery always keeps things interesting.
Right. It's about revealing something intriguing about yourself, but leaving him wanting more.
So like a little sneak peek into your world.
Exactly. Just enough to spark his curiosity and make him eager to learn more.
Smart. Okay, give me one more.
Okay, this one is a little more intimate. It's called the vulnerability phrase.
Vulnerability. That sounds interesting.
The idea here is to create a deeper level of connection by revealing a piece of your authentic self.
So it's about letting down your guard a little.
Right, but in a strategic way. It's
Yeah.
about showing him that you trust him enough to be vulnerable.
Makes sense. But you have to be careful with that, right?
Absolutely. It's not about oversharing or dumping all your emotional baggage on him.
Right, you don't want to scare him off.
Exactly. It's about sharing something personal, but not too heavy or overwhelming.
Just a little glimpse into your heart.
Right, just enough to make him feel like he's seeing the real you.
I see, creating a sense of intimacy and trust.
Exactly. Now, it's important to emphasize that these phrases are just tools.
Right, they're not magic spells.
They're not going to work if you're not being genuine.
It all comes back to authenticity.
Right, you can't just use these phrases as a script.
You have to actually feel the emotions you're expressing.
Exactly. The most effective communication comes from the heart.
And I think that's an important takeaway from this whole book.
It is. It's not just about memorizing phrases. It's about understanding the principles behind them.
It's about being intentional with your words and using them to create the kind of connection you desire.
Well said. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the desire system.
I feel like we've just scratched the surface.
I know, right? There's so much more we could explore.
It's a fascinating topic.
It is. And I think it sparked a lot of interesting questions and ideas.
Definitely. It makes you think about the power of language in a whole new way.
It does. And I think the most important thing is to use this knowledge responsibly.
Right, to be mindful of our intentions and to always treat others with respect.
Absolutely. So if you're curious to learn more about mesmerizing messages and how to use them effectively and ethically,
I know I am.
we encourage you to pick up a copy of the book and see what resonates with you.
It's definitely a worthwhile read.
And as always, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep using the power of language to create the life you desire.
Couldn't have said it better myself.